One time I went on an OkCupid date, and everything was normal until the end. She was a cute, blonde girl that liked some of the things I liked. We seemed to make each other laugh via OkCupid chat, so I asked her if she wanted to meet. She said sure. We met up at the Elephant and Castle in San Francisco. It's a popular bar and has enough room to have private conversations. I was kind of nervous and didn't want to drink because I was on medication, but she called me out, so I ordered what she ordered. A pear cider. We go upstairs and nervously talk. At first it was awkward, but we both seemed to loosen up quickly. She has a darker sense of humor than I expected, bringing up topics like burned bodies discovered on the side of the road and making jokes. I'm into it and play along too. Everything seems completely fine and normal, and I start maybe to even like her, and she touches me playfully, and it just seems completely normal and easy. Then suddenly, without anything weird being said or anything happening, no phone call or emotion or reaction, she gets up and just walks away rapidly. I was so confused by the suddenness, I thought maybe I had missed something she said, and followed her through the crowded bar as she increased her speed. She never looked back at me or anything. She just kept going for the door. I thought maybe she was having a panic attack or something like that, but when we got outside, she was completely fine. She kept walking away at top speed when I finally said, "Hey, wait a moment." She turned around with this look on her face like she didn't know who I was and said, "Yes." I was like, oh, that was so sudden. I just wanted to say goodbye. Maybe we can shake hands or something." I didn't really know what to say, and I tried to make a joke thinking about the least intimate greeting. She said, "Why?" as she stuck out her hand and put it in mine awkwardly. Then she turned around and hightailed it out there. I took a minute and looked at her walk away, and I tried retracing my steps of what we said and did, and trying to think of why she reacted like that. I really felt like I must be the shittiest person ever. What I didn't notice while thinking was that there was this huge crowd of people smoking outside the bar. It must have been 50 people just all around the bar, and we had been standing right in the center of them. I didn't notice at first, but after she left they all started cracking jokes about me. Like tons and tons of jokes, and it was like suddenly I could hear them, so I kind of looked around me realizing what was happening until I recognized the jokes were about me. Finally, one very tall black dude smoking a clove shouted loudly, "Ah shit, Romeo, you fucked that shit up. Look how fast that bitch is walking." Everyone just erupted in laughter. I was so double stunned that I just kind of walked away slowly back toward the BART station. As I walked I heard that same voice yell, "Ah shit, did I hurt that guy's feelings? Sorry brother." That's not the worst date I have been on, but it was one that I think of a lot in the shower when I feel depressed. So this happened to my cousin. No, not me, my cousin. And I will tell this story till I die. Her and I lived together at the time. She worked at a tanning salon. She mentions this guy Vaughn that started coming in, and he's really hot and always flirts with her. So I guess 2 weeks after back and forth flirting, Vaughn asks her out on a date. She comes home, gets all prettied up. I wish her luck, tell her to please call me if she decides to stay over, so I know she's okay. She's a few years younger than me, and I have no idea who this guy is. Anyways, she ends up calling me about 5 hours later. Hysterical, bawling her eyes out. Can't understand a word. All I can make out is, "I'm at the hospital, my car is at blah 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 address. Please go get it, then come pick me up." So my boyfriend and I go get her car. We drop it off at our house, then my boyfriend decides to pick up a couple buddies of his along the way, because it sounds like someone needed an ass kicking. We had no idea what was going on. We get to the hospital, and she's outside shivering. A man is standing near her, but not beside her. He looks worried, and she looks like hell. She jumps in the car and screams, "Just drive." Me being mad as fuck, say to the guy, "Are you Vaughn?" He looks like he's going to cry at any second. He says, "Yes, please don't be mad. I brought her here. I had to. She didn't want me to. Please let me explain." My cousin is in absolute hysterics at this point. Punching the back of my seat, "Please, Giolo," I said, "I don't have time to listen to you. She wants to go home. I need to take care of her." We drive home. I keep asking what the fuck happened, please tell me now. Did he hurt you? Do we need to call the cops? Her response is, "No, please. Nothing like that. I'll tell you at home." Not in front of other people, so I left it at that. Dying inside to know. We get home, I tuck her in bed. Give her some tea. Try and calm her down. Every time she tries to start explaining, she buries her face and cries. Finally I get it out of her. After she left our house, she met him at his house. They talked and had a coffee, and he asks what she would like to do. She suggests a movie. He said, okay, let's go to Blockbuster. They go to Blockbuster. This is where it all starts. They pick their movie and head to the cashier. She says she doesn't feel so good and remembers waking up on the floor. Vaughn told her she passed out and hit her head pretty hard on the counter. She said he was begging her to go to the hospital right then and there. She said, no, I'll be fine. Let's just go watch the movie. He agrees. They get back to his place. He keeps asking if she's all right, if she would please change her mind and go to the hospital. She says no over and over. She said she doesn't remember falling asleep, but she guessed that's what happened, because suddenly wakes up urgently needing to shit and vomit. She has no idea the layout of this guy's house, so she scrambles to the floor feeling dizzy again, starts crawling, literally. Asking where the washroom is, he tries picking her up to take her, but she said she couldn't hold back. Throws up all over his floor, all over him. Shits in her pants. She starts crying. She said he was so concerned. He didn't even care, he just took her to the bathroom to finish. While they make it to the bathroom, she said she pulls her pants down before she makes it to the toilet and shits like a parrot all over the walls. He gently closes the door and says, pass me your clothes, and he has something for her to wear. She agrees and does so. She said she stopped vomiting and shitting, and finally agreed to go to the hospital. He takes her, and then shortly after I got that phone call. While she's telling me this, I am laughing so hard, crying, rubbing her head, and wondering if this is all a joke. No, because they ended up getting married, and we bring this up at least once a year. I was at a good-sized house party in college, and the host introduced me to his lab mate shortly after I got there. We got to talking while things were warming up. No one was tanked yet, and people were still arriving. Eventually the lab mate asked me for my number. He was okay looking, seemed a little dull but harmless, and I agreed. We barely knew each other, but why not? It's college. You meet people and have a series of terrible and meaningless relationships. He disappeared shortly after. I didn't think much of it because the house was decent sized and figured he wandered off. The party ended around 3 when we were out of booze. The next morning around 8:30 a.m. I got a call. Barely conscious, maybe still a bit drunk, I answered like an idiot. It was him. He asked me out for a nice steak dinner and church that evening. To get him off of the phone as quickly as possible, so I could go back to sleep, I agreed to whatever he was asking without really understanding the question, and awoke around noon with no real memory of the conversation. He called me a few hours later asking me for my address, so he could pick me up. Memories came flooding back. I gave it to him, hastily showered, put on makeup and a nice outfit, regretting agreeing to this but looking forward to the steak, and went down to my apartment's garage to meet him. He was dressed short of schlubby, but I figured that's a grad student for you. I didn't think a nice place would really turn us away. As he drove, he proceeded to flip through dozens of songs, mostly Elvis, never letting one finish, sometimes starting from the beginning of the same song several times in a row. I heard the first minute of You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog more time than I care to admit that night. He then revealed to me he didn't like music and everything on his iPod was from his dad borrowing it for a road trip. It was a 64 gigabytes, big for the time, and expensive, with around 100 songs on it. Utterly bizarre and distracting. It also turned out he didn't really like anything, couldn't name a book he'd read since high school, or even one he enjoyed. Didn't watch TV but was lurking while his roommates were watching Fawlty Towers, but didn't understand the humor. Didn't have a favorite movie. His reply was, I like everything, when I asked and said he liked Titanic. Didn't play video games. Didn't know Harry Potter was a book series before a movie. Favorite food was Taco Bell. What had I gotten into? We were heading to a nice part of town, past a couple of nice restaurants, and I eagerly ask him where we're going to end up. He replies with a vague, oh, you'll see. To keep the conversation going, I asked where he disappeared to last night. He said he left because his bedtime is at 10:30 p.m. sharp every night. I asked if that's why he'd called me so early. He seemed surprised and thought he'd given me time for sleeping in. Holy shit. My apprehension grew. He then turned suddenly into a Denny's parking lot. We go in. Shit. I'm way overdressed. We're seated. I figured I was promised steak. I'm getting one even if it's nastiest, most gristly slab of beef in the city. He turns to me and eagerly asks if I'm okay with splitting. I was tempted to buy us each our own damn steak, but to be polite and to not embarrass him I agreed, resolving to eat a proper dinner at home. The steak came, we split. I tried to not feel the judgmental eyes of the staff on me, and proceeded to church. It was a Saturday night young adult service with contemporary music, and was supposed to be some sort of place for the non-secular devout to hang out on Saturday nights instead of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, I guess. Whatever the heathens do. Free coffee and stale donuts. During the singing, large group of people would jump up onto the pews and furiously bounce along to the music, belting out the lyrics. He was smiling, clapping his hands along to the music, and interjected with him waving his arms in the air. I was dying a little and couldn't wait to leave. They had a, thankfully, short service on keeping yourself pure, and my horror grew to the point I think I could power a small city with it. He was nodding along vigorously with the pastor, with the occasional and other grunts of agreement. Did he bring me here to convert me from my sinful ways? Damn. The evening could have gone so much worse, but thankfully he didn't ask me what I thought of the service, or maybe he was astute enough to detect my ire. He took me home without incident. My roommates piled on me asking how it was, and well, I told them the same thing I'm telling here. I'm walking down the street, just finishing a conversation on my old-ass, craptastic flip phone. Just as I'm hanging up, wham, I know into someone and drop my phone. I apologize, grab my phone, and head back to work. 10 minutes later I get a phone call. Hey, I think we switched phones by accident. Turns out the girl I bumped into had the same phone as me. Anyways, we plan to meet at a local coffee place after work that day to trade back. I walk up and see this very cute ginger wearing a suit dress. We chat for a bit. Turns out she works at a bank, likes what I like, and is totally up for getting dinner this weekend. Great. Saturday evening rolls around, and I swing by her place to pick her up. Out her door walks a girl who looks remarkably like said date, only instead of professional office clothes. She is wearing 4-inch platform hoe boots, fishnet stockings, some sort of corset-like top, and in spiky hair. Now normally I don't really care about a person's style, but I was a bit taken aback. Who cares, I think, and jump out to open the door. Cue witty banter. Everything is going great. She's laughing at my jokes, and her humor seems to match mine perfectly. She asks what the plan is for the night, and I tell her I'm going to take her to my absolute favorite high-quality dining establishment and get her a Big Mac. Hell, if she plays her cards right, I might even supersize it. She runs with the joke, and even one-ups me. My spirits are high. She might have wild fashion, but this chick is cool. We arrive at this nice pub in town, and I turn off the car. What about McDonald's? Legit confused look on her face. I laugh, and upon seeing her face stop in confusion. We head inside and order dinner. I have a scotch and she orders the biggest boot. This restaurant has glass boots, of Bud Light I've ever seen. The waiter comes over and takes our order. As he's leaving, my date whispers rather loudly, I can't believe they let his people in such a classy place. We should probably check our food for spit before we eat it. Our waiter is black and has ears, so I am beginning to panic. She continues her whispered commentary on the supremacy of whites, all the while putting away an obscene, but impressive, quantity of beer. Dinner arrives, and she makes a point of checking her plate for saliva. Waiter and I make eye contact, and I like to think that he understood that I agreed with him that this girl was nuts. So 3 more boots of beer later, she excuses herself for a bathroom break while I take care of the check. I apologize profusely to the waiter for my date's conduct. Dude is a true gentleman. Don't worry about it, man. There are all sorts of people in this world. My date returns and we head out. In my car, she pulls out a cigarette and lights up. Doesn't even bother putting the window down. We should go shooting out at my dad's farm. What's your favorite fun? I vaguely excuse myself from such activities and point out that it is rather later and time to go home. I drop her off at her house and she says, "This was great, except for that waiter. We should totally go get that Big Mac next time. See you soon." I flee. First date with my ex. He picked me up at home. We drive 1 block to his friend's house where he walked straight to the backyard and started yelling, "Tony." No answer. He gets mad. We leave. He never told me what our date would consist of, so as we're driving, I'm looking around and had no idea where we were going. He finally pulls up to the bowling alley in our town. He said he took the back way because he wanted to surprise me. I honk he just got lost. Game 1 commences. I win. He says he let me win because he wanted to be nice. Game 2, I win. Game 3 rolls around, and he's mad because I'm kicking his ass. He was trying his damnedest to beat me. It was quite funny as he was sweating and cursing up a storm with every gutter ball. I asked him if he wanted bumpers as a joke. He just ignored me and sat down across from. I win game 3. Then I mentioned to him that I used to be on a bowling league and am very kick-ass. We leave after game 3. We go get Chinese food. We eat, have a conversation. Typical date stuff. He goes up to the counter to ask for a refill on his drink. Cashier asks for the 15 cents refill charge as stated on posted sign on the cash register. He flips out and walks away and tells me we're leaving. I hadn't even finished my food. He drives me back to his friend's house and goes back to the back and continues to yell, "Tony." He gets no answer again. He then tells me they were playing video games and he wanted to finish the game earlier, but since Tony wasn't there, he tried again after our date. With nothing left to do, he drives me the 1 block back home. Needless to say, we dated for a year and a half after that. Things ended after a bad Valentine's Day date. Edit, Tony, I already knew him. My ex, Tony, and I were all on yearbook staff together. Valentine's Day date for those asking. It's long. I got off of an 8-hour shift at work. I was a waitress and on my feet all day. On the way home, he texted me to hurry up and get ready. I just wanted to relax a bit, shower and rest my feet. After I told him I would be ready around 9, he said I needed to be ready earlier. There was never any mention of any reservations to me, so I didn't know why he needed me to be ready before 9. Anyway, he picked me up and we started driving, and it was completely silent. I didn't say anything until we parked in front of BJ's. It was crowded and I said, "Looks busy, we're not going to get a table." He replied, "I had a reservation but you weren't ready on time." A fight started because he was mad that we didn't make it to our reservation. I was mad because I was never told of a reservation, and I would more than likely be paying for dinner, because I was the only one who had a job. His parents never gave him money because they didn't like me. At one point he started punching his steering wheel, and I noped the fuck out of his car and ran to a closed-down furniture store. I called a co-worker, and when my ex ran after me, I told him to stay away from me, and that he would never see me again. My co-worker left his date and came to pick me up. The next day I went to pick up my shit, and from the ex's house. Okay, I saw him once more, but it was to pick up my shit. I gave him back his promise ring, and he actually said, "Hopefully the next girl will appreciate it more." I told him it wasn't smart to give that ring to the next girl. He texted me later while I was at work, and he said, "Give me some time, and then we can be friends." I never texted him back, and haven't spoken to him since. Yes, the coworker had feeling for me, and yes, we eventually began dating. He wasn't a rebound. We're still together 5 years later, and getting married next year. So what if I don't know what needless means? Seemed right at the time I was typing this. Okay, so this is really long, so the TLDR is I went on a date with a highly functional special needs woman. This is hands down the worst date, not only that I've had, but any of my friends have even heard about. When it got bad, that was only the prequel to what was to come. 2003, I'm at home and get a random phone call. I didn't own a cell. Let's call her Melissa, is on the other end. She says she got my number from a mutual friend who thought that I would like her. Okay, this is an odd phone call, but I'm really single, and a prospect of going on a date sounded delightful. We talk for more than an hour. She is sprinkling hints as to what she looks like. She also says she has seen pictures of me and thinks I'm cute. Bonus. She mentions her bra size more than once. Okay, sweet, I like a bigger chested girl, I'm thinking. We line up a date for the next Saturday. It was Thursday. I live in town and she lives in a suburb that requires her to catch a train and then a bus, roughly a 2-hour ride to see me. I have no idea what she looks like, except that she has big boobs and brown hair. I'm standing in the spot where we decided to meet, and I'm seeing a girl kind of stumbling down the street. She's wearing those baggy type jeans that goth kids wear, really baggy and frayed at the cuffs. Not my style at all. Also, she's got way too much makeup on. It's her, it's Melissa, my date. The reason she was stumbling is because she got a bit nervous at the idea of a blind date, so she picked up a Mickey for the train ride into town, then another for the bus ride, and I'm meeting 2 Mickeys deep and clearly drunk. The second she sees me, her haze-off drunk rises a notch to excitement, and she drapes herself across me in a sloppy hug with a butt grab added at the end. I'm confused and scared and nervous, and a bit frustrated all at once. I had planned to take her to play pool at an upscale place downtown that's kind of trendy. I mention it, and she's all for it as long as they serve alcohol. I'm okay. At the pool hall, the waitress gets us a table and asks us if we would like a drink. 4 shots of tequila and a pint of beer. She says, "Wow, okay, tequila? I'm not usually a fan, but okay." I say, "Oh, did you want some tequila too?" she replies. They were all for her. Keep in mind it was probably around 3 in the afternoon. The shits come, and one after another without a pause goes down Melissa's throat. 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shot, 4, and then downs the beer. Upon finishing the beer, she looks right into my eyes and wipes the foam from her lips with the back of her hand. My mind pictured what a drunk rapist looks like moments before committing a rape. She saunters over to me while I trying to line up a shot and not notice how drunk she's getting. She leans over me while I'm bent over and says, "You can take me. We can go to the bathroom right now if you want." I miss my shot partially due to the hand creeping its way to my crotch. I kind of laugh her off and say maybe we should wait until we finish the game. She lets out this impatient sigh and grabs my cue to make her shot. She isn't really lining it up, and then she takes a hit. It barely even grazed the cue ball. In frustration, Melissa throws the pool cue across the pool table, whereupon hitting the carpet snags it and creates a massive tear across the table. This is hilarious to her, and she starts laughing like an idiot hyena. I'm less than amused. I say I need to take a leak and head to the bathroom. I'm keeping an eye on me back as I do in the case she's tailing me. In the bathroom, I lock myself into a stall and put my face in my hands. How did I get here? Who is the woman, and why did I agree to this? How can I get out this? Where is my God, and why has he forsaken me? JK, I'm not religious. While I'm in the bathroom contemplating my poor life decisions, I'm hearing a commotion outside. Some sort of shouting and a glass breaking. I compose myself as best I can and leave my sanctuary. Melissa and the bartender are face to face yelling at each other. The bartender and also a friend is being rational and asking her not to pull at the tear created by her pool cue lancing. Apparently she thought THR hilarity would continue if she ripped more carpet off the table, while the waitress and bartender thought better. Melissa sees me and starts explaining how much these two are idiots. I try calming her and tell her maybe we should hit up another place anyway. She complies, thank God. I'm an opportunist, so I try to make the best of this situation. I'm mentally crossing off the date stuff I can do with this girl in her inebriated state, and come to conclusion it would be best to just get drunk and pass the time until her scheduled bus leaves. She's all for it, surprise, surprise. I grab a case of beer, and being a sunny day, I suggest a beach not far from the train station. I've stated more than once now that she should be on her way when the bus gets here. I didn't want her to have to be stranded in town if she did, I say. She's reluctantly agrees. We pass the next few hours drinking on the beach, and her trying her best to paw at my crotch. By about 6:30 or so I'm fairly buzzed and not far from ending this odd scenario. It's about time to head to the bus station. She's moving at half speed now, and hinting that she doesn't want to leave yet. I'm not paying attention, but instead taking her by elbow and inching toward her bus. She doesn't have any more money. I pay for the ticket. The bus driver takes her ticket, but she doesn't get on. Instead, she looks over her shoulder at me and then proceeds to empty her stomach right on the first step of the bus. The bus driver pushes her back, curses her out, closes the door, and peels off. Oh God, no. Wiping her mouth of leftover vomit, she gives me a faint smile and says, "Well, looks like we can hang out a little longer." I'm not amused, I'm not trying to hide it either. I'm not smiling, I'm not being polite, I'm a totem of disappointment. I'm walking away from the train station with her in tow. She explains that she has nowhere to go, and it really isn't a big deal if she just goes home with me. And besides, we can have some fun while we're at it. No. I let the steam of anger simmer down a bit and think logically, mistake. She really doesn't have anywhere to go, and it would be a dick move to just leave her to her own devices. Reluctantly, I tell her she crash at my place, but it's going to be on my couch. She's all for it. I live with my cousin at the time, and he's home. He sees this atrocity come in behind me and runs to his bedroom, stifling the laughs along the way. Fuck you, cuz. We watch a bit of TV while finishing the last of the beer in my fridge. I tell her it's getting late and I'm gonna call it a night. I grab some extra blankets and pillows for her. She takes them quietly and thanks me. It's the middle of the night. I'm awakened by a sensation in being crushed. Melissa is on top of me. On top, my blankets fully clothed and our faces are inches apart. I couldn't sleep, is all she says. I tell her to get off of me and that she's hurting me. She gets up. She says she didn't want to sleep in my living room and asks if she can sleep in here with me. Wordless, I get up, grab the blankets and pillow from the living room and make a bed next to mine. She watches me do this, and when I finish, instead saying anything, I point to the bed AMD, climb back into my own. Once more that night, she attempted to get on top of me. Also, she never took her shoes off. The heavens smile upon me by blessing me with daybreak. I wake her up and repeat the process of taking her to the bus station. This time the formalities are gone. There's your bus, don't puke this time. No, I didn't have a good time, but goodbye anyway. On returning home, I pull out my black book and look up our mutual friend, and proceed to rag her out for putting me through such an ordeal. My friend is perplexed and has no idea who Melissa is. I describe her, and there's a moment of silence. She says she remembers now. It makes sense, she says. My friend had her friend from out of town come to visit, but she had brought along her cousin, who was high-functioning, but a special needs student. Her mother was in the process having her signed over to a group home here in town. When Melissa visited my friend, she apparently went through her things and found a photo of me with her with my phone number on the back and took it. I went on a date with a mentally disabled woman. Story 7. So, I get an itch for some delicious sashimi from my favorite restaurant in town, and I drive on over. Table for one, please. The cute hostess seats me and kind of gives me the eye. I brush it off and pay no mind. I start answering some work emails on my phone as my meal arrives, and I continue to reply to these shits and eat my food in peace. Hello, can I sit with you? I'm on break. It's the cute hostess. I put my phone down and tell her she's more than welcome. We enjoy some small talk, and she asks me to hang out. I figured I'd go for it since she's kinda cute, but a little invasive. Whatever. So that night, it's 10 p.m., and she calls me and asks me to go out with her and her friends. I say no, but she insists and she offers to pick me up. My truck was in the shop, so I figured that was pretty nice of her. Little did I know she was doing it to give me no way out of her crazy trap. We hit up this huge dance club, which is something I never do because it's way out of my comfort range. She introduces me to like 10 of her friends. All of them giggle and smile, and I hear one say, "He looks like he could be the one." What the fuck? Do I look like Keanu? Whatever. I order a beer and ask her if she wants a drink. She's like, "Oh, I'll get my own," and orders 5 shots of Sky vodka and drinks them all in succession. So here I am, with this girl whose friends think I'm going to marry, and she's fucking shit-can hammered. Great. Hey, this place is a little intense for me. We should split. She's like, "I'll BRB," and comes back with 2 shots of Jameson. I take them because fuck it. I'm stuck now, and if something happens I'd like to use. I was drunk as an excuse. Last call comes around, and we're walking out the door. She insists on driving, and it's like a 5-minute ride back to our neighborhood, so I figure I'd like to live dangerously for one evening and hop in the passenger side. I'm drunk enough, and I want the night to be over. Fuck it. She takes me to her fucking parents' house instead of her apartment. It's 20 minutes from my house. No chance in walking home now. Sad face. We walk in and she's like, "Do you want some wine?" "I want some wine." I'm gonna get us some wine from the wine cellar. Little did I know, her parents own the restaurant in which this tale began. She comes back up from downstairs with this bottle of wine. God knows what kind it was. I'm not sure if it was $6 or $600. I didn't care anymore. I can't find a corkscrew, and she hammers the glass on the edge of the countertop and makes a smooth break. I was pretty impressed, but still kind of worried about my fate. Oh shit, I gotta let my dogs out. She opens the cages and lets these dogs just shit on the floor and says to me, "Pretend like you didn't see that. Let's go up to my room. I want to show you something. Do you want some Coke?" "No thanks, but I'll come with you." At this point, I was ready to bang her or hang myself, as there was no way out of this predicament. We head upstairs and she breaks out a mirror and cuts up a few lines. "I want to read you something." She starts reading me journal entries and the shittiest poetry I've ever heard as she does lines and drinks wine. These are journal entries from when I was in rehab. I used to do a lot of coke. I went through a really rough time with my ex-husband when we lived in Italy. I didn't know it, but he was gay. I tried everything I could to make him straight again, or even be attracted to me more. I even let him fuck me in the ass. Something along those lines. So here I am, in this chick's parents' house at 5 in the morning, drunk and listening to her terrify me with her life story the first time we met. She puts her journal, the cocaine and the glass of wine, it was more of a cup like you would use for your morning glass of milk or whatever, down and asks me if she can try something. Whatever, go ahead. I'm frustrated, drunk, tired, annoyed, and this girl won't shut the hell up. She climbs on top of me and starts gyrating on my man parts and playing with herself. I'm thinking, this is a really unorthodox way of trying to get someone to fuck you, but whatever. So I go with it. Like a minute later, she gets off of me and grabs my dick and says, You're hard. I thought I was kind of scaring you, but I see that I'm turning you on. But I don't want to have sex with you. It's our first date. I tell her I'm tired, and I have underscore 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 to do the next day. I just want to sleep. So I make a weird barrier of blankets between us and pass out. The next day she drives me home and asks if I would like to hang out again. Sure. I said as sarcastically as possible, thinking me might get the hint, and I just the door and walk to my apartment. That night she calls me again and asks me if I want to go see Lady Gaga. I've always wanted to see a Lady Gaga show, but I had to bail for the sake of my own sanity. Row 4. RIP. Story 8. I recently had a date that I thought was the best of my life end up being the worst of my life. Met a girl on OkCupid. We start talking on a Sunday. We chat a bit, exchanging messages on the site. We're both very nerdy and love games. She plays MMOs and GMs D&D and does Friday night magic. Fucking perfect. And she doesn't look too bad. In fact, she's probably the most attractive girl that has ever talked to me on that site. She gives me her phone number, and we text for an hour about more nerdy shit. Then she informs me that her phone is dying, and she doesn't have her charger, and that her phone plan runs out that night. So she gives me her Facebook and says she can get Wi-Fi on her phone still, and talk to me there. We spend about 7 hours chatting on Facebook until 4 a.m. Since it was Sunday, I took about an hour break to watch True Blood. She apparently likes True Blood, says she's Sookie IRL. Why are you Sookie? Because I'm sort of telepathic and I can read people and feel their emotions and thoughts. Ahu, red flag 1. She asks if she can come over and watch True Blood with me. My roommates, friends, and I had just spent the entire weekend having a LAN party. My 2 roommates and I were still set up in the living room for the LAN, and none of us had felt like being productive members of society that day, so none of us had showered. I tell her this thinking she probably would not want to hang with a bunch of smelly dudes. I have an acquired taste for nerd funk. In fact, I cannot take a shower, so I'll fit in with y'all. Red flag 2. I tell her I'm not really comfortable with that. I mean, we had just started talking that day and never met, so I go watch the show, then we chat more for the rest of the night. In our chats, she seemed really excited and a bit obsessed about the fact that if she came over to hang out with me and my roommates, she was going to make them jealous of me. Red flag 3. When I come over all tits and ass and covered in tattoos and 110 pounds size 0 and all suicide girled out, they're going to get so jealous it will be fun. My roommates and I homebrew beer and mead, and we drink a lot of craft beer. We're beer snobs. I ask if she drinks, and she says that she used to, but doesn't anymore. She only drinks at home, never with a group of males, and only when she can watch her beer and never take her eyes off it after the factory seal has been broken. Then she says she thinks she can talk to her therapist, red flag 4, and be able to drink if she hangs out with me because it sounds like fun to her. At this point, she also makes some comment about having PTSD. Red flag 5. I got the impression that she had been raped in the past from someone spiking her drink, but I never asked her about it and moved on. Doesn't matter to me if that did happen to her or not. It's not something I'd ever even think of doing, and I'll never treat a gal like she's damaged goods, or something because of her past. She then makes a comment about drinking homebrew, making her nervous. That's fine, you don't have to drink. My friends and I have abstained from alcohol in the past when having someone over who has serious problems with it. Then out of nowhere she accuses me of being an angry, alcoholic drunk who might hit her. Since her ex-husband started out 2 beers a night and then beat her, and her alcoholic mother abused her. Red flags 6, 7, and 8. Somehow during our conversation about her wanting to make my roommates and friends jealous about her, she makes the comment, I wreck guys, I've done porn. Red flag 9. Proceeds to tell me all about how she models for some like Suicide Girls website. She did 3 scenes for Naughty America that were never released because I had a good lawyer and they broke contract, so I had them all taken down so no one has ever seen them. Oh, and I fucking love anal. Well, that's nice, but that's not something you say to someone the first time you're chatting with them and haven't even met with yet. Red flag 10. At this point I was halfway convinced this person was a troll and couldn't be real. The next day she chats with me on Facebook more throughout the day while I'm at the office for work. She starts talking to me about drugs. She kind of hinted that she had tried a lot of things. Then tells me that I never do any of the hard stuff, just weed and shrooms for me. Red flag 11. I share my opinion on drugs, mainly that I don't do them ever, but that I don't have that much of a problem with people who do, and many of my friends have tried things in the past. I've even been a trip sitter on occasion. She thinks that hanging out with those kinds of people is really dumb, and she thinks less of me for that. But it's perfectly fine that she's tried heroin, meth, cocaine, acid, and regularly does shrooms and smokes weed. Red flag 12. She tells me that she has a list of things the next guy she dates must have or do, which includes smoke weed every day. She claims she will peer pressure me into it with research studies that only she has access to. Red flag 13. We argue a bit about why she thinks I need to do drugs, why it's okay for her to have tried things but not my friends, and she ends up going into some freak-out mode where she claims she's having terrible anxiety, and I need to stop talking to her right now. Red flag 14. A few hours later she starts talking to me again, says that the things we were talking about were triggering her PTSD and making her anxious, but she's cool now and wants to chat more. Informs me that she really likes me, and that up until our disagreement on illicit substances, and the way that her anxiety attack changed my impression of you, and the way I think of you, that she would have let me wear her like a hat. Red flag 15. We continue to chat. She seems to have gotten over whatever was going on with her, and says she doesn't want to sound clingy, but she just has to see me right now / that day. She wants to bring a late lunch to my work at around 4 p.m. Hell no. Red flag 16. Eventually I agreed to do something with her and meet her that night. I was really wanting to go see Guardians of the Galaxy, so I asked if she wanted to go see that. She did, so I bought tickets for a 9:30 p.m. showtime. She wants to meet me at 7 p.m., so I can get to know you. We won't be talking and learning about each other during the movie. She wants me to meet her at 7 sharp at the mall in a nerdy/geeky toy shop kind of place. I get there, am completely surprised that she looks just like her pics. She's a little nerdy pixie dream girl with a lot of tattoos. She was talking with the only employee at the store when I walked in, turns her back on him mid-sentence to greet me, and starts walking around the store looking at stuff with me. She complains that the guy working there had been hitting on her, and she was so glad I showed up on time. Apparently people hit on her all the time in public. Red flag 17. We look at everything in the store. She's possibly even more nerdy than I am, and a total fangirl for everything. She also asks repeatedly if I will buy little things for her in the shop. Red flag 18. We start walking around the mall. Almost instantly she starts putting her arm around mine, leaning on me, hanging on my shoulder, holding my hand. This was a bit strange to me since we'd just met, but whatever. She's cute and she's affectionate, and normally gals don't treat me like that. We go to a bunch of girly/hippie type of stores and popular places. She's constantly asking if I will buy this so adorable/so cute/awesome thing that she wants in every store. Red flag number 19. In one store she strikes up a conversation with the gal working behind the cash register and ends up exchanging numbers with her because she's new to the area and wanting to meet new friends. During this exchange, she calls me her boyfriend and hugs me. Weird. Red flag 20. In one store, one of the girls working there walks by and asks if we need any help. We tell her we're fine and just looking, then we immediately leave. Once we're out of the store, she tells me she almost decked that employee because when she came up to ask if we needed help, the girl had given us a look. It was like she felt sorry for me and was saying, "Sorry honey, I wish you didn't have to be with that guy." WTF? I would have hit her, but I don't need another assault charge. Red flag 21. We still have a good hour and a half until the movie starts, so she suggests we get in her car and drive to her favorite spot. Her car is filthy and covered in trash on the inside. It was honestly as if someone had been living in the car. Red flag 22. We drive to a nearby lake. On the way there she points out a neighborhood of houses and says, "That's where I live." Before we had met up that night, I had asked what part of town she lived in to figure out which theater we should go to, ask if she wanted me to pick her up or meet her there, etc. She had told me she lived in an apartment complex on the opposite side of the lake, from where she pointed out the houses she lived in. Red flag 23. Her spot at the lake was a small park. We sat on a bench, held hands, and talked for a long time. While there she tells me about how she was the innocent, designated driver, techie girl who didn't do anything at parties and was bilingual. Somehow that made her a prime candidate for some guy to woo in order to recruit her to do tech work for the MS-13 gang. She showed me a small infinity symbol tattoo on her foot and claimed it was a MS-13 property mark. She claimed she had not even known what she was doing for 4 years before she got out of that life. Red flag 24. Story 9. I joined website for dating to try and get more dates. That was my only intent. I've been working too much for 2 years at my new job. I just wanted to have more fun. I got an email and set up a date with this girl. It's my 5th date from the site. It's been fun. But this one girl was like one of those love at first sight moments when we met at a restaurant. I saw HH, and she was perfect. I tried to play it cool, but I felt like I could just cut ties with all the girls I've dated and just commit to her. Physically, she was everything I could ever ask for, and exactly my type. Her personality seemed about a 10 out of 10. About 30 minutes into sitting down, we didn't even order cause we were just talking. The chemistry was as good as it was with my first love when I was 13. It was perfect, sparks were flying. I thought I was done and ready to commit here. But then she tells me to forget about ordering food. Let's go somewhere else, and she has this idea. She won't say much, and I like surprises, so I didn't ask much. We jumped in my car and drove to this restaurant about 20 minutes away, kind of out of town. It was halfway up a mountain near a ski resort. I'm familiar with the area, so no big deal. We walk in and her family is celebrating her aunt's birthday. There was only family and a lot of it, about 40 people. She introduces me, and everybody was happy to meet me and real nice. Everybody also knew that she was out on a first date. They were asking her stuff like, "Is this the guy? Is this your date? Is this the one?" All of a sudden I wasn't so cool and relaxed. I felt heavy pressure to be on my best behavior. It was high pressure to the 3rd degree. But everybody was nice, so that helped. We sat down and I started being questioned by her older sister, her aunt, and another lady that I forget her relation to my date. The mom started kind of defending me and telling them to back off and let me eat. But the interrogating continued. After I don't know how long, they turned to my date and jokingly said, "We approve." Then I was able to kind of get my bearings about me for a minute. I was totally off balance all night, just tense. I was afraid the back of my shirt would get that a big wet spot because I felt sweat on my back. So the sister brings her cute little girl and lets me hold her, and she and my date started taking pictures of me holding her, and somebody else's baby boy as well. I started to feel like the tone of it all was that we were a couple. I kind of felt like I was married to her, and these nice people were my in-laws. After a couple of hours, probably closer to 3 hours, everybody was kind of tiring out and everything began to wind down. Keep in mind her car is still at the other restaurant down the hill. Then her dad suddenly asks me jokingly what my intentions are with his daughter, though I can't remember how he phrased the question. Everybody looked at the table, looked at me, which is about half the people there. I guess I was exhausted from all the questioning. I was questioned by multiple people multiple times, and the pressure of it all because I kind of lost it. He asked the question, I looked across the table at her, and she told her dad to stop it. Her dad smiles and jokingly says that he'd really like to hear my response, and her uncle, I think, also said he'd like to know jokingly. I looked at my date and said, "Can I talk to you alone for a minute?" To which her dad laughs loudly, and then says, "I made him nervous." So everybody is laughing now, and I guess it was a big joke. Then I said to my date, "Hey, can I talk to you alone for a minute?" I stood up in place, it was one of those long bench seats, and I couldn't push it back cause other people were sitting on it. Then her sister, I think, says, "Oh, there are no secrets in this family, speak your mind." People then laugh again, and everybody starts making jokes about not having secrets, and this man who married into the family somehow tells me that he remembers being in my place, and he says, "Let me give you some advice. The best thing to do right now is speak your mind and be honest." Then others join in and echo his sentiment, all jokingly, I think. So I looked at my date, and she says something like, "You can tell me anything here, we're all family." She also, I think, was joking, but I had started to lose my ability to tell when people were joking and when they were serious. So the dad says, "Wait, I haven't gotten an answer to my question." So finally I speak directly to the dad and say, "I'd like to discuss that with her first." But I regretfully laughed as I said it. So her dad says, "I asked you first, I want to know." I turn to my date and she says something like, "Go ahead, you can tell me. I'm a big girl, I can handle it." So I said okay, and sat down, then took a couple of breaths while her dad kind of quieted everybody down. I started with, "I think I made a huge mistake." It all spiraled down from there. I said harsh things like that I felt like I was having a bad dream where I was suddenly married. I questioned her intentions in bringing me there. I said stuff like, "What were you thinking? Yes, I liked you, but I just met you, and right now I know your aunt." I pointed at her sitting next to me. "Better than I know you." I think she was humiliated, but I couldn't stop. The more I spoke, the more bad stuff came out. Total fucking tailspin. I said I want to find someone special, but I don't want to skip the first 29 dates and skip to date 30, which is what I'd done that night. Then people started interrupting and chiming in and suggesting that she and I slow down and have a real first date. I wasn't having it. I was out of control. I said, "No, it's too late for that. I feel robbed here. I wanted to meet this girl, get to know her, date her, and maybe fall for her. But now it's like we're engaged and her whole family is here, and there are all these expectations. We skipped the getting to know each other and dating part, so I feel robbed." Then I said yet another thing I regret. I said it's a huge red flag, with an emphatic gesture, that I asked for a minute alone with you to talk, and this is what I got instead. I added something like, "You're all great and a great family, but the lack of certain boundaries is a huge red flag for me. I would never let my relationship become family business." My date interrupts me at this point and says, "Okay, so let's talk in private. Let's go outside and talk. I'm sorry I didn't give you that minute. Let's go outside and talk privately. I'll give you all night." She was visibly shaken, and I could tell tears were inevitable. I stood up again, and realizing that I had insulted all of them, I just quietly walked out. I felt really bad cause they were all nice and had nothing but the best intentions for me. They love her, and they were literally telling me that I was good enough, which should have been a compliment, but I somehow took it the wrong way and spat in their face. I didn't even drink. Alright, Reddit, let's talk about Lily. Lily was one of my half a dozen or so OkCupid hookups this year. Now, I'll preface by saying that I don't take OkCupid very seriously anymore at all. I made a second account while I was recovering from knee surgery and have used it on and off ever since, depending upon how bored I am. One night, I get a few profile views and an unexpected message, Lily. She lived about an hour away, and we got to talking about nothing in particular. She was trying to impress me with decent grammar. I type pretty well for a guy on OkCupid, apparently, and I was fairly bored with her personality. We weren't a high match percentage to begin with, and she just seemed to be throwing herself at me too easily. These apps and websites have put a lot of women on such a pedestal that when they make it too easy, it's kind of a red flag. We exchanged actual numbers, although I'm not exactly sure why I bothered. I guess I was feeling particularly desperate. At any rate, 5 minutes into texting, she just starts unloading naked pictures at me. They were obviously previously saved on her phone, and I was not attracted to her at all. She had the body of a woman who looked twice her age and not well taken care of at all. She was 25. The conversation faded out, and we only spoke once or twice in the coming weeks, and not for very long. At one point, she even told me she wasn't interested because she didn't like men in uniform, and to stop talking to her. I did, but she messaged me again anyway. Then, my friends, it happens. I am laying in bed around 2 o'clock in the morning, and my phone buzzes. I sleepily roll over and check the message. "Hey, what are you doing?" We exchange early morning pleasantries where I explain that I'm sleeping regardless of her being bored. As it were, Lily was a stripper, and that was likely her stage name. I was just now learning these facts. She was asking if she could drive the hour to my house and sleep with me. I was hesitant at first, but in a moment of weakness I agreed to let it happen. She shows up nearly 3 hours later in a pair of stripper heels and a very unattractive dress that smelled of broken dreams and body odor. She explains that she got pulled over on her way to my house, and proceeds to explain that the police continually harass her for no reason. She was also a good 3 inches taller than she had indicated, too. I was already not feeling this entire encounter when she strolled into my house and demanded I give her a beer. She starts dumping a Bud Light down her throat and essentially says, "Let's get to it." We go upstairs where she lays on my bed and begins criticizing me for just assuming we were going to hook up. "Wait, what the fuck?" She mocks my choice of interior decorations and scoffs at my scanner when it went off for a traffic stop, noting about her disdain for local law enforcement once more. She then tells me about how she failed out of USMC boot camp, has a child and a baby daddy, sugar daddy, lives off of her mentally ill father, and works as a stripper for fun. I take a chance to shut her up, lean in, and I kiss her. She sets the beer down and seems to enjoy this awkward yet alright kiss. This begins the single worst makeout session of my entire life. I didn't think it was humanely possible to be such a horrible kisser, but by God, it certainly is. She is literally sucking on my mouth like some sort of suction cup and pulling on my hair. She undoes my trousers, and I thank the heavens above I'll at least get something out of this horrible experience. Yeah, wrong. Although she does go down on me, her fellatio is just as bad as her kissing. She is ramming my poor junk into the back of her throat and grinding her teeth around my shaft. I am squirming and begging her to stop, pretty sure she was strangely into that. After several painful minutes, she slips off her underwear and says, "My turn, bitch." I can't make this stuff up. Swallowing, I think to myself, Hollywood Jones, old boy, you've come this far. You may as well ride the train until the end of the line. I go down on this girl, and it is awful. It is awful because she smells and has the single most abnormal clitoris I have ever dealt with. It reminded me of silly putty. I don't know how, but it just did. She criticizes every motion of my tongue to the point where it becomes irritating, all the while she is pulling on my hair and smacking my head like a bongo drum. She lifts her right leg up a little and proceeds to fucking fart in my face. She literally rips a fart into my face and starts laughing about it. I am absolutely mortified, and finally, she pushes my head off and yells, "Are you going to fuck me or what?" I proceed to start going at it, where she refuses to sit still for more than several seconds at a time. Every time we engage in one position, she is flipping herself into some awkward pretzel to do something else. She starts complaining about my bad leg, military injury, and how I can't do several things she likes. She finally declares, "I'll just fuck you myself." I lay on my back as she hovers over me and then lets out an audible queef, on purpose, I swear to God, and it sprays me with vaginal fluid. I can't contain my distaste for what she's just done as she slides down, still queefing, on top of me. After about a minute of that, she declares, "Okay, I'm all set," and hops off me of. She starts to get dressed in a hurry and says adios quite sharply as she stomps down my stairs. I am laying there naked and confused, but proceed to follow her downstairs to lock the door after her. She is still putting her shoes on and says to me, "Nice meeting you and all, but don't ever text me again." At this point I just laugh and she slams my own door in my face. She texted me about a half hour later to tell me what a great guy I am and to take care. I never replied and deleted her number. I don't know if I would consider any of this a date, but this seems like the best place to post it.